What's going on, good people? It's Will. I just wanted to go over a stage that Kwesi and I recently shot at a USPSA match. Now, Kwesi and I are in different divisions, so I shoot production. Production is, for the most part, guns that are pretty stock. You can make some changes and adjustments to the internals, but for the most part, they're stock. Kwesi shoots carry optics, which is for guns that have dots on them. So he has a red dot on his gun. So he's in carry optics. So with production, at the start of a stage, you can only have 10 rounds in your magazine. In carry optics, they don't limit your rounds, but they limit the size of the magazine to, it's somewhere around 140 millimeters. So most people shooting 9 are going to have around 22 to 24 rounds in their gun, plus 1. And I'll have 10 plus 1 if it's a loaded start. So when we're going through our strategies to shoot each stage, our stage plans, sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're different because of the fact that I have to reload a lot more. So what you'll see on this stage, it's a 32 round count stage, which is the maximum in USPSA. There is essentially 4 sets of 8. So 4 sets of 4 targets, each target gets 2. So what you'll see is me reload after each array of 8. And then Kwesi will reload once during the stage because he has a higher round capacity. So I'm just going to let it play through, and then we'll go over some of the similarities that you see and then some of the differences. So that's, if you're not familiar, that's me on the top and that's Kwesi on the bottom. All right, so on this stage, because it was a pretty simple stage, we both pretty much had the same stage plan. The only minor difference is that I reload after every 8th shot, and Kwesi reloaded halfway through. So he shot 16 rounds, then reloaded, and then shot 16 more. Kwesi does a really good job of shooting his way into the first position. I actually didn't fire my shot in his first shot until I had come to a complete stop, which shooting your way in like Kwesi does while he's still moving actually saves time. On the second array of 8, we both actually shoot our way in, but I think I took the long way. So in USPSA, you see the lines on the ground, the boards on the ground, those are called fault lines. In USPSA, you can run outside of those all day, but any shot that you take, you have to have your feet either on or inside of those lines. You can have 1 foot out provided it's not on the ground. So any foot that's touching the ground has to be either on or inside the fault lines in order to fire a legal shot. So after we fire this first string of 8, we're going to run to our right. And what Kwesi's going to do is cut across outside the fault lines and back in, which is the straight line, which is the shortest distance, right? I'm going to make the mistake of running to my right and kind of following inside because I was so busy trying to complete my reload. I went the wrong way. So my stage plan actually cut across like Kwesi did, but once the stage started, me trying to get my gun reloaded, I ended up following the line, which is a smaller or a slower path. So we both do a good job of shooting our way into the second array. You see us both start shooting before we come to a stop. There's Kwesi's only reload at the bottom. I'm reloading after every 8, and then we run across the fault lines and continue with our last set of 8 here. So depending on the round count of the stage and how the targets are laid out, sometimes our stage plans are completely different. Or if it's a simple stage like this, it makes sense. Almost everybody that I saw shot this the same way, left to right. But what I can say, that first array, some of the higher level shooters, when they got to this position, what they did, instead of shooting left to right like Kwesi and I did, they shot right to left. So they ended up finishing on these 2 targets on the left. And what that allowed them to do is to not shoot their way in, but they actually shot their way out. So they went all the way in deep, shot the target to the right, shot the middle right, and then those last 2 targets, they were actually backing out as they were shooting them, which made them closer to the next array once they finished shooting. So that saved some time. But either way, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the differences between different divisions and how you would attack a stage. For those of you that are thinking about competition shooting, it's more than just choosing a sport. IDPA, Steel Challenge, USPSA. Each of those sports also has divisions within the sport, which will limit the type of gun you can use, the type of modifications you can do to your gun, as well as where your gun can be placed on your body, magazines, and more. So those are all things you need to consider. I don't want to make this too long, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Give me the 14 when it's 14. Me kill 14. What you know about AR-15? The class 16. Many not the start speed.